Last time we found the Borg, met the number species who are currently kicking their heads in, discovered there possibly may be an enemy too, got Kim infected with mushrooms, developed a weapon capable of genocide, and offered it to the people who we know have a history of doing a genocide. On the plus side, there's a very, 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 very small chance they might not betray us. So that's nice. We rejoin Voyager as it's dragged by a Borg cube away from a planet that just got kaboomed by the number species. Janeway gives Voyager a call from the cube where she was negotiating and tells everybody that things are just dandy and she'll be working from there to perfect the weapon. The Borg have agreed to us having safe passage through their space in exchange for all that delicious murder tech, and her remaining there is part of the deal. Tuvok joining her is apparently also part of the plan, and he pops over there to join her in one of their special not hostage suites for definitely not hostages. Down in sickbay, the doctor has made enough mini-bots to start treating Kim for that nasty case of athlete's face. It's a success, and we prepare more treatments for him, but the doctor raises a concern with Chakotay about providing it to the Borg. Not about the moral implications as I had expected, but rather the practicality of turning a medical treatment into a weapon. As an aside, that feels like a missed opportunity to me, not least of which because the doc was the only person on the ship who objected to Tuvik's execution. Another reminder of the ethical implications of Janeway's plan would have been welcome here, and perhaps provided an opportunity for Chakotay to show public loyalty to her despite privately agreeing with the doc's concerns. But I digress. A little later on the bridge, B'Elanna's updating Chakotay on the status of the Borg cube. They're getting back up to full efficiency after taking a few hits from that exploding planet, and we're not likely to be able to teleport Janeway and Tuvok out anytime soon. On the plus side, they released the tractor beam they were using to drag Voyager along, so that's a bonus. The good news doesn't last, however, as while Kez is fiddling with a screen in sickbay, she starts experiencing more psychic shenanigans from the number species and says we're being watched by them. Back on the Borg cube, we're being escorted to the executive meeting rooms. Janeway and Tuvok bounce around some ideas, but it's all too slow for the drones who want to install neural links on them to make communication more efficient. Suffice to say, we're not too fond of this plan and suggest an alternative. An avatar of the Borg for direct communication, similar to when Johnny Picard got robotized. To that end, we're introduced to 7 of 9, tertiary adjunct of Unimatrix 01, which seems a rather inelegant naming convention for a collective focused on efficiency, but then I suppose it would be more difficult to pronounce in hexadecimal. Time to make a weapon. We suggest sticking some of the modified mini-bots in Voyager's fireworks, an idea rejected by 7. The Borg want something a little different, a mini-bot mega-nuke capable of affecting entire star systems. Janeway's taken aback, apparently surprised that the war crimes people are suggesting war crimes. Tuvok outlogics 7, saying that the time to create such a weapon would render it worthless, given the rapid success of the number species. Janeway argues that a loss of any kind, even on a small scale, may give them pause. With 7 convinced, we begin work on a mini-bot firework. Kez is having a bit of a rough time. Those visions are getting more regular and potent, and the doc thinks there may be more to it. Not much we can do about it right now, but they've mentioned it twice, so it's probably an important plot point. So important that Chakotay gives Janeway on the cube a call to let her know. The doc thinks there's a chance the number species is accessing Kez's memories. This means they may know about the weapon and our positions, so we change course to try and throw them off. Based on this new data, 7 pushes to accelerate the weapon construction. Janeway tells her to bollocks, as that'd basically remove any reason for the Borg to hold up their end of the deal and, after some threats, we work on something else instead. Kim's fixed and reports for duty. I'd argue he's earned a day off, though I'll admit this probably isn't the best time. After greeting him, B'Elanna jokes about him still having some mushroom on his face, which is a bit of a dick move considering it nearly killed him. Maybe she's been hanging around Paris for too long. No more time for jokes as the number species has just turned up. They poop some lightning at Voyager and mess us up a bit, suggesting they know we're the real threat. Some more pooping could end this whole alliance prematurely, but the Borg cube moves to shield us and takes the hit instead. Meatship's not playing games and rams the cube, kabooming it good and proper. Celebrations for Chakotay's promotion are cut short when he receives a call from Tuvok. He's in one of Voyager's cargo bays, along with Janeway, some Borg, and a chunk of the cube. Looks like the Borg teleported it over when they realized shit was going bad. Chakotay pops down there with a security team to have a poke around. We find Tuvok and Janeway injured, as well as a few drones, including Seven, who says they're here with Janeway's permission. True or not, they've already integrated into the cargo base systems, but made no attempts to infiltrate further. Not yet, anyway. After updating Tuvok on security for our guests, Chakotay chats with the Doctor about Janeway. She took a blast of lightning on the Borg ship and it's arsed up her brains. The Doc says it doesn't look good, and we have a quick chat with her before he starts treatment. She gives Chakotay command and charges him with making the Alliance work. As an aside, this is an interesting development. Chakotay was opposed to the idea of an alliance with the Borg from the start, but now it's taken on the form of a last request. Was this a deliberate manipulation of him, playing his loyalty against his ethics? Time for a chat with Seven. She wants to alter the agreement, go back the way we came and join up with another Borg cube. That'll take 5 days, and it's in the wrong direction, so Chakotay's hesitant and says he'll consider it. Instead, he holds a meeting with the other important people on the ship, and Neelix. Rather than turn around, Chakotay wants to back out of the whole thing, stick the Borg we have on a planet somewhere, give them the probes and leg it as fast as we can. I confess this is an unexpected turn of events. I thought his loyalty would mean he sticks to the plan, but his duty to keep the crew safe is more important to him. The news is received somewhat poorly by Seven, who threatens to assimilate the ship. Chakotay counters with offering to decompress the cargo bay and flush them all into space, leaving us at somewhat of a stalemate. Seven's displeased and calls us all shitheads, but that's about all she can do for now. As she's escorted back to the cargo bay, Chakotay goes to sick bay and apologizes to an unconscious Janeway for betraying her orders. Credit where it's due, this episode is playing into their conflicting views a lot more than I'd expected. Some points to all responsible. Things are going poorly for the Borg. Number Species is giving them a proper kicking and has wiped out another one of their solar systems. The hive mind updates Seven on the defeat, listing the destruction of planets, ships, and Borg in that order, perhaps to remind us that they view people as the least important component of their collective. Regardless, things are looking a bit dicey for the Borg, and Seven is told to take Voyager by force and fly to where the Number Species come from so they can hit them at home. Into the Jeffries tubes we go, so Seven can mess about with our systems and cause Voyager to poop out some green, opening the same kind of shiny sky thing the meat ships use. Chakotay opens the cargo bay doors in response and farts all of the drones into space, except for Seven, who manages to grab onto a bit of the tube. She carries on opening the shiny sky thing, which pulls us in. We find ourselves outside of our own galaxy. Wherever the Number Species come from, it's filled with biological fluid, and I hope you appreciate the restraint I'm showing by not making a joke about that. Seven gives Chakotay a call and invites him down to the cargo bay so we can have a chat about what just happened. She tells us that the shockwave we made when we entered the piss dimension will have alerted any meat ships in the area, and they'll be coming to say hi. This is all rather more than you'd expect Seven to know on her first visit, causing Chakotay to conclude first that the Borg have been here before, and second that they started this war by trying to assimilate the Number Species. This went terribly, and the Number Species decided to come and kick their heads in, which I think is fair under the circumstances. Now that we're here, Seven wants us to make some mini-bot fireworks and get ready for a fight. Oh, and she won't reopen the shiny sky thing to take us back until we do. Good news, the captain's awake again. Bad news, she's proper fuming. As far as she's concerned, Chakotay should have reversed course and gone back to the Borg, preserving the Alliance for as long as possible. Learning that the Borg started this war gives her pause, but not for long. We're here now and she wants to be ready to fight the Number Species when they arrive. This conflict between them causes Chakotay to remember something Seven said to him, that their lack of cohesion, of singular purpose, will be their undoing, and he shares this with Janeway. Suitably chastened, they both come to an understanding and stop fighting each other. Which makes it all rather curious when Janeway informs a summoned 7 of 9 that Chakotay has been relieved of command. Janeway also says we're getting those mini-bot weapons ready in the hopes that a swift kick in their alien balls will make the Number Species think twice about this whole war thing and recall their ships. 7 seems to be staying on the bridge, which would provide an interesting opportunity for a member of the main cast to be cocking around with all that Borg stuff in the cargo bay. If only there was someone who now has a very good reason to not be on the bridge. It's a couple of hours later and Voyager's had 1 or 2 upgrades. We're ready for that Barney now, which is handy as there are meat ships incoming. Kez gets a bit more of their psychic shenanigans, saying they're really rather upset about us contaminating the piss dimension, and they're going to wipe out our entire galaxy just to be on the safe side. Pooping begins and the number species messes Voyager up a bit, so we respond with the Minibot fireworks. The meat ships don't seem fond of these and do a kaboom. Janeway thinks we've proven our point, asking Seven to return us to our own galaxy. We pop out of the shiny sky thing, only to be immediately set upon by more meat ships. Good thing we kept a giant Minibot firework in reserve, which we fart at them. A load of the meat ships kaboom and the others scarper, as do the rest of the meat ships all over Borg space, according to reports from Seven. Time for them to uphold their end of the bargain, says Janeway, to which Seven rather predictably responds, lol, and indeed, lamau. Assimilating Voyager instead seems the far smarter choice to them, and a bit of pooping from the likes of Paris won't change matters. Chakotay's secret sneaky plan might though, and Janeway gives him the nod to proceed. Chakotay installs that neural link the Borg wanted to force on Janeway and Tuvok earlier, and uses it to communicate with Seven directly, trying to appeal to her humanity. It's mainly a distraction though, and as he browses her memories, B'Elanna is poking about in the guts of some Borg tech. She starts an overload that kabooms the neural link on Chakotay's neck and the one implanted on Seven, severing her from the collective as we leg it. Later, Janeway's writing her log as Chakotay joins her on the holodeck to provide a report. Apparently, we're going to remove most of the Borg tech. A reason isn't given, but if we're being generous, maybe the Borg can use it to track us or remotely control it. The more pressing matter is our new guest, whose human biology is taking over now she's disconnected from the collective. They debate whether her human mind will be able to make the same adjustments as we fly away. The obvious place to start here would be 7 of 9, but we know little about her currently, save for the fact that she was assimilated at a young age, and I imagine we'll deal with her progress at length elsewhere, so we'll shelve it for now. Instead, let's talk about the interplay between Janeway and Chakotay, as that's the sort of conflict we expected to spark up between the two of them from the start of the show, but never really did. His willingness to disobey her orders to do what he thought was right for the crew is complicated. We can't truly call it ethical, as he was still willing to give Seven the means to commit genocide by leaving the nanoprobes with her. Perhaps that was a sweetener to keep them compliant, and he had no intention of following through with it, but we'll never know. What we do know is that he'll place the well-being of the crew above his loyalty to Janeway, despite their potentially fruity past. You could argue this is the first real exploration of his character we've seen for some time, and it's a welcome chance to see more of the driving force behind the second most important person on the ship, one who's been woefully underrepresented to date. I'd like to see this fracture between Chakotay and Janeway be raised in other episodes, but I suspect the big red reset button will be hit, and we'll never speak of it again. End of episode.
Hello, it's Space Dog again. The guy who makes these videos has said some of you taken a shine to me, despite how obvious I've made it that I don't care if you live or die. Well, most of you anyway. These people here have chosen to support the channel on his Patronum, and I have to agree that's very kind of them. After all, it takes a special sort of generosity to part with your hard-earned cash in exchange for a dog with a badly animated mouth. Woof.